So hello everyone, good morning or good evening depending on where you are joining from. Hope my voice is audible. Okay, so this session is about basics of understanding basics of Informatica Data Management Cloud, which is IDMC. So here we are going to talk about what IDMC is and how it is important and what are the use cases of IDMC, right? So the very basic things which we are going to talk with respect to IDMC in this session. So let's first talk about why companies are moving to cloud, right? Because that is important if we want to understand IDMC, right? Because IDMC is all about Informatica Cloud, right? So first we need to understand why the companies are moving to cloud first, right? So in the past, right, companies used to store their data in databases, right, on their on-premise servers, right, and they build data warehouses and data marts, and they use those to perform reporting and analytics. Now, all of those systems and tools sat on physical servers in the company on-premise, and company had to manage all the servers themselves, right? But over the period of time, the things have changed, and the amount of data that businesses generate is increasing rapidly. Along with that, the use cases are also evolving, right? So now companies are looking more into advanced technology, especially with respect to AI and ML, right? To handle these surge in the data and the new use cases, the companies need to constantly upgrade their infrastructure, right? And for many of them, uh, uh, managing the infrastructure is not their core business, right? And it's basically a time consuming and expensive to maintain the infrastructure when it's not really your core business. So in those cases, right, they would want to focus what best they are in doing it, right? That's where the concept of cloud comes into the picture, right? And that's where the big players like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, right, and Snowflake, all these players came into the picture, and they offer cloud-based infrastructure and technology that can handle this huge or massive amount of data and advanced AI ML use cases on demand basis, right? So this means that companies no longer have to worry about managing their servers, upgrading the hardwares, or investing an expensive infrastructure, right? They can just use what they need when they need, and scale up or scale down easily as per their need, right? So cloud services basically free up business from the burden of infrastructure management, right? Allow them to focus on innovation, efficiency, and delivering better products and services. And that is why more and more companies are making the move on the cloud, right? So it's all about scalability, flexibility, efficiency, disaster recovery, data backup, right? All those things, including the security, compliance, global accessibility of the data, right? Keeping up with the fast paced world of technology and data. So it's all cloud is all about that only, right? Now you must be thinking, okay, companies have started moving their data sources on cloud, but why Informatica is moving on cloud, right? So that is something you might be interested, right? Or you might have got the question. So first, let's break down what Informatica does, right? And then you will be able to understand it. Okay, so so we were talking about the Informatica role, right? So what Informatica does basically. So when companies build data warehouses, data marts, or data lakes, they need tools to fetch data from their various data sources, right? Apply the business logic, transform the data, and load it into these warehouse for consumption purposes, right? And that's where Informatica comes into the picture. So basically, Informatica is a company, right, that provides a suite of tools that performs ETL operations, right? Extract, transform, and load. You can do data quality and profiling, master data management, data governance related things. So all these things you can do it using the Informatica provided tools. Now, back when most companies had their data sources on premise, so it made perfect sense for the companies to keep Informatica tool on premise too, right? But since they have already, because they were already managing their on-premise systems, so handling these tools wasn't much of a stretch, right? If their data sources are on-premise completely, then they can even manage Informatica on-premise. That was not an issue for them. But as the companies began moving their data systems and applications to cloud, managing only Informatica on premise no longer made sense, right? And that's where there was a growing need for Informatica to offer its services in the cloud. So in short, same benefits which are applicable for moving the data sources to cloud, right, is applicable for having Informatica in cloud as well. Right? So for anyone, and more importantly, for anyone who has worked with Informatica tools, right, on-premise tools, whether it's a Power Center for ETL, IDQ for data quality, or EDC and Axon for data governance, or MDM, right? You know how much effort it takes to manage these systems and keep them updated, right? But with Informatica Cloud, all of that management related activities, right, the infrastructure management for the Informatica, right, it drops significantly, and customers can now focus more on their actual use case and implementations rather than getting bogged down by maintaining the tools and infrastructure, right? So that's the whole aim of having Informatica on cloud, right? So just to summarize, just like companies are choosing to move their data sources to the cloud for flexibility, efficiency, they are expecting the same from Informatica. And it's all about reducing the overhead, improving the scalability, and making life easier for the businesses. So with all these explanation, if you have ever used Informatica, you know that this shift is a game changer. Before I open my screen and show you talk about the IDMC, first let's understand because till now we were talking about Informatica Cloud, right? So many times people get confused between IICS and IDMC, right? So that clearing that confusion is very much important. That what's the difference between IDMC and IICS, right? So the thing is simple. It both are same, right? It just when Informatica first launched their cloud services, they started with core offerings, right? Like CDI or Cloud Application Integration (CAI), right? So back then, that platform was called as IICS or Informatica Intelligent Cloud Services. But as the demand for more comprehensive data management in the cloud grew, Informatica expanded its services and they began offering data quality, master data management, data governance, right? All of these things they started offering in the cloud. And with this expansion, the platform evolved, right? And now it is known as IDMC or Informatica Data Management Cloud. So basically, your IICS was the old name, and IDMC is the new name, where a bunch of other services are offered by Informatica on a single cloud platform. So I think this was clear, the difference between IICS and IDMC. So one thing is very important here, and because if you are going with the certifications, right, of anything CDI or CDQ or even CDGC, right, one question you will definitely get, which is a common question, IDMC is a IPaaS solution, right? So it's basically integration platform as a service. So it's a common thing, right? In simple English, if you try to understand, IDMC is a combination of multiple services, right? So which are closely integrated, right? You have CDI, you have CAI, you have CDQ, you have CDGC, MDM, a bunch of other services are there, right? So everything is closely integrated in a single platform, and that is where basically it's a IPaaS solution, right? So IDMC is a IPaaS solution. This question definitely you will be getting in all the certifications which you are going to do for Informatica Cloud, right? Okay. Another thing is, let me open up my. Let's see, you have IDMC, right? So this is your IDMC, right? Which is offering a bunch of services, right? So you have IDMC, which is having different kind of services. So you will be having, let's say you have CDI, you have CI, like that. You have bunch of services which is offered by the IDMC here, right? And then there are different customers here, right? So you have customers, let's say you have customer 1, right? You have customer 2, like that. You will be having different customers across the globe, right? And everyone is connecting to your IDMC here, right? So the question comes here is, are all these customers, right, are going to connect to the same IDMC, right? The answer is no. So what Informatica does basically is they deployed their IDMC services, right, across various cloud providers. Like this IDMC can be on AWS, right? This can be on Azure. This can be on Google, right? GCP. This can be on Oracle Cloud as well, right? So they deploy these services on different cloud providers, right? And then it will be in different regions as well, right? It will be in America, APJ, Europe. In different regions they will be deploying, and each region can be further broken down into specific locations. Like North America can have a US East, US West, Canada, right? And this is what we refer as point of deployment or pod in IDMC, right? So the where your Informatica IDMC organization org is deployed, right, in which region, that is basically we called it as a point of deployment. So what happens is, whenever a user signs up, right, for the IDMC services, they will be having choice, right, to choose the cloud provider and the region basically, right? So ideally, right, the customer should select the cloud provider that matches their existing cloud ecosystem. So if their existing ecosystem is already on AWS, they should choose AWS, right? Or if they are planning to use AWS, right, in the future, then they should choose AWS IDMC on AWS, right? And similarly for pod, right, which region or location they want, it should be closest to their business locations, where their users are and where their data sources are residing. So these things they should keep in mind when they are opting for IDMC, and where their org should be residing, right? So that thing is very important. Now what you will notice here is, so let me quickly open my browser, and okay. So this is how the IDMC looks like, right? So when you log into the IDMC, right, this is how the screen will be looking like. So basically what happens is, when you sign up for IDMC services, right, so you will be getting one welcome email from Informatica, which will contain the login link, your username, and it will ask you to set your password. So you have to set your password, and then once you log in, it will be looking something similar to this, right? The services which are assigned to your org, those will be listed here. So once you log in here, right, and you can see, so I was talking about pod, right? So how you can, so how you can know about the pod basically is, if you look at the URL, right, the login URL here, after logging whatever URL you are able to see here, you see it's saying DM US, right? So it is denoting that it's a US pod basically, right? And again, it is in front of that, it's saying NA1. So NA1 is also representing the region basically. But how you will come to know, what you can do is, so there is a official Informatica documentation. Let me open that, if I can open it. Yeah, here it is. So if you see here, they have listed down all the available pods. So if you see in America, they have bunch of pods, like it's saying US West 1, East 1, like that they have, right? And where these pods are residing. So this one is on AWS, and it's the location it is talking about, right? Where is the disaster recovery location, and what are all the services, IDMC services available on this location, that they have listed here. So from here you will come to know. So what you can do is, there is another link, let me open that as well. That is official Informatica documentation link only. So what I was saying here is, if you see my login URL is saying NA1DMUS, right? Now if I go to this documentation, right, and if I see it is showing me in graphical format, right? And if I see here, it is saying if the pod URL is NA1DMUS, that means it's a US West pod, right? And this US West pod is residing where? So it's residing here, right? This is a location. This is a physical location, basically it is saying, and where its disaster recovery location is, that's what it is saying. So with this documentation, right, you will be able to know, okay, where your pod is residing, basically, right? So that is important if you want to understand where your pod is residing. Right. Now let's talk about all of these services. So when you open, it will look something similar to this, and one thing very interesting is, although it's renamed to IDMC, but everywhere you see it still says IICS, right? I don't know why, but it still says IICS only. So now if you click on this show all services, it's going to show all the services which is available in this pod, right? For all the IDMC users, and whatever services are not assigned to your org, that will be grayed out, basically like this. So, and here it is showing category wise, right? So here it is showing me, okay, so from the data governance and quality, these are the services available, right? From the data integration, these are the services available. Similarly, for the master data management, these are services available, and these are the common services available here, right? So likewise, you will be able to see, okay, so let's see, let's talk about these services. So what I'll do here is, I'll quickly start with the I'll quickly give you a walkthrough of these services, right? So the first one is, the first category is data governance and cloud. So here you are having metadata command center, right? This is basically a service where you are going to connect to your source system. So let's say you are going to connect to Oracle, Snowflake, like that. Those are source systems, basically, right? So you can connect to those source systems and you can extract the metadata out of that, right? So metadata command center is basically used to extract the metadata, right, or do the profiling, right, in cloud data governance, right, or business term association, glossary association. For all those kind of activities, you do it in the metadata command center. So here basically you configure your source system, right, from where you and the scanners basically you configure in metadata command center. And then once you scan those resources, the result will be visible in the CDGC. So again, CDGC is another service where you will be able to see the results, and you will be able to create the business assets like glossaries, processes, policies. So all those things you will be able to do in the CDGC, right? And then you have data access management. So this is more about kind of you create a policy, and based on that policy, if you want to control the access, in those cases you go with the data access management. Then we have data quality and data profiling. These are basically CDQ related stuff. So in data quality, you create the data quality rule, right? So it's similar to IDQ. So like in IDQ, you have some data quality specific transformations like labeler, parser, address doctor. So all those will be available under data quality, right? You will be able to create the transformation under data quality. And then you will be able to utilize those transformations either in CDI or in the data profiling. So in data profiling, you create a profiling basically. So you connect to your source system, you import the table, on top of the table you create a profiling, and if needed you can attach the rules which you created in data quality on the profile. So these two services can be used for that purpose. And then these are the services related to CDI, right? I would not say CDI, but it's a data integration, because many services are clubbed here, right? Because eventually they are doing the data integration task, right, in one or other way. So that's where they are just classified as data integration. So all these services, wherever you are see API, right, API center, API manager, API portal, right, application integration, or the application integration console, all these services are related to cloud application integration, CAI, right? Now CAI is basically used for a real-time event driven application integration across the cloud and on-premise systems, right? So you can use basically CI for real-time syncing, data syncing between the applications, right? basically it provides you some tools where you can design, manage, monitor the APIs, right? So user can expose their data as API or integrate with external API from other applications. So it's all about API, right? So either you consume API from the external applications, or you create your API and you expose it, right? So those kind of activity you will be able to do utilizing these services, the CI related services. You can also create workflows and automate the business process across different applications. Like you can create workflows or processes to synchronize data between the ERP, right, CRM and other cloud or on-premise systems, right? And then basically it gives you a low code or visual interface for the API development, right, without the complex coding requirement. If I try to link it with any freely available applications, Postman could be very close. Postman is just one part, right? Like in Postman, how you you can call the APIs and you can see the response. Like similar kind of thing you can do it, but of course it's much more wider. CI is having much more wider scope, not just what Postman can do. But I'm just giving you, right, example. Like Postman is kind of similar kind of thing. Of course, CI is having a robust, much more broader scope. So the common use case you will think of CI is basically synchronization of data, let's say between Salesforce, CRM and SAP ERP. If you want to synchronize for those purposes, you can use CI, because these source systems will be providing you API, right? So using API, you will be able to do it, right? You can create automating workflows for, let's say, for customer onboarding or order processing across multiple applications. For those purposes, you can utilize. You can manage and expose APIs to external or internal consumption purposes, right? For that purposes, you can utilize that. The next one is assurance service, right? So this service is basically more kind of it basically provides some valuable insights into what changes are happening into your IDMC org, right? And it helps you to address some of the key questions, like has any configuration changed in my IDMC org, right? Or what is the overall health assessment of the org, or which all assets will be impacted when upgrade is happening in my org, right? So it also helps you to streamline the deployment of assets between the different IDMC organizations, right? You can even use it for identify missing workflow dependency when you are doing cloud data warehouse modernization efforts. So in those cases, if you are moving the workflows from the on-prem to cloud, so if there are any dependencies missing, those kind of things, you can check it from here. So if I just summarize this, basically IDMC assurance package reduces the risk of disruptions and ensures that CDI and CAI environments are running at peak efficiency, right? So for that purposes, you can use the assurance package. Another one is cloud B2B gateway and B2B partners portal, right? So B2B gateway basically it facilitates the exchange of business to business data or messages between partners, right? So basically organizations can use this to send and receive messages in electronic data interchange or EDI formats, right? With their partners. Now who can be the partners? So partners can be like suppliers, customers and other organizations, right, with whom they do the business, so their business can continue, right? So basically for change of messages in secure messages, right, with other partners, this can be utilized. So I'll give you one example here, right? So let's say there is a customer, right, who wants to place an order for purchase, right? So they will send the purchase order, right? The organization will validate the purchase order, and then they send the order along with the invoice to the customer, right? So this will complete a whole cycle, right? And now in this cycle, a message was transmitted from customer to organization, right? And then another message was transmitted from organization to the customer. Now these messages follow a standard industry standard pattern basically, and they have a fixed template. So the B2B gateway ensures that exchange happens according to these standards, right? So when customer will be using the communication of message, the exchange of messages will be happening as per the standard industry standard templates, right? So and it's much better than the traditional method. So in traditional method, what our organization will be doing, right? They will be utilizing the paper-based approach. So they will be sending the purchase order request. Organization will be sending the invoice and all. So everything will be happening on paper, which is riskier, right? You can lose them or anything can happen. So compared to that, this approach is much efficient and faster, right? So for that purposes, organization can utilize the B2B gateway here. Then you have data ingestion and replication, right? So this one is basically part of data integration, and you can use this to easily ingest and replicate huge volume of data into the cloud warehouses or cloud data lakes or messaging hubs. You can utilize batch processing or streaming or real-time ingestion or even a change data capture as well, CDC, right? So the main use case you can think of is basically when you are doing cloud modernization, right? When you are moving your on-premise data sources into the cloud, right? When you're so in those cases you may want to move a terabyte of data, right? Which does not require much transformations, or it doesn't require any transformation at all, or might be very minimal transformations like just trimming or just converting uppercase, those kind of very minimal transformation. So in between the source and target, so in those cases you might want to go with the data ingestion in replication, because it will be very fast, right? To move the terabyte of data, right, between the sources to the cloud, right? And it will not require any much effort. So hardly 4 or 5 steps are involved, and then just to connect to the source system, do the configuration, and it will be able to move the data quickly. So in those cases you will be going with that. Of course, a CDI is there, but the use case is different, right? CDI is more about ETL, but here it's more about just dumping the data from one place to another place. So for that purpose, you can use it. Then of course you have data integration. So data integration is the favorite one, right? So CDI basically. So this is basically used for ETL or ELT operations. So you have your source system, then you have your target system, right? And then you want to transform the data in between. So let's say I got some data and I got some business logic to modify the data or transform the data, right? And then I want to load into the target system. Those for ETL operations you can use the CDI, right? It also supports ELT, but it's kind of similar concept. It's just like in ETL, you are doing the transformation in between ELT, you are loading it, and then later when someone is consuming, then they are applying the transformation. So similar concepts, but so both you can do it in CDI, right? And then you have these are PC to cloud conversion basically. So someone is moving from Informatica Power Center to cloud. So for that, these services can be utilized. And then there is something called data validation. So data validation is also a new service. So what it can do is basically it can be used to compare the data sets, right, and verify the validity and the completeness of the data. So let's say you have table 1, you have table 2, and then you want to compare these two to find if the data is matching between these two tables or not, right? So basically if you want to do a reconciliation of the data among the or between the data sets, you will be able to do it using the data validation. So for data reconciliation use cases, you will be using the data validation service here. Okay, these all are related to MDM, right? So someone is using MDM, you will be able to use that. So multi-domain MDM and all the 360 related services are also available here. So for that purpose, it can be utilized. There are few common services like administrator is one service, right, where you will be doing all the IDMC admin related activities. This we will talk in detail in this video or in this session. Then you have Clear GPT, right? So this is also a new service. So Clear GPT is about just like Chat GPT, right, where you ask the questions and the GPT is going to respond you with some answers. So similarly, Clear GPT is there. Of course, Chat GPT is all about the data which is available on the internet, right? But Clear GPT is about the data available within your IDMC org. So let's say you are using CDGC, right? And in CDGC you have extracted the metadata, you have done the profiling, right? And then utilize and then you want to use the Clear GPT to answer some questions. Let's say you want to answer, okay, where my employee data is residing. So if you type that, it is going to give you a response similar to Chat GPT, where it will tell, okay, your employee data is residing in these tables, these columns, and this is the profiling stats. So those kind of use cases you can do it using Clear GPT. And then you have Monitor. So Monitor is basically, if you want to monitor the jobs across the organization, you will be able to do the Monitor, right? And then you have the Operational Insights. So Operational Insights, basically it provides a visibility into the performance and operational efficiency of your Informatica infrastructure, right? So basically you can use this service to monitor your runtime environments in your IDMC org, right? The cloud secure agents, secure agent services, or IDMC services, right? And even if you have connected your on-premise applications, like on-premise domains, if you have Power Center, you have connected your domain. If you have ID, you have connected your domain. So if you have connected that, then even you will be able to monitor them, how they are performing, if they were down, or how much time it is running, what data it has processed. So those kind of things you will be able to monitor from this screen. So for that purposes you can use it, Operational Insights. So this can be useful to see the reports, like how my secure agent is utilized over the period of time, or what was the time when my secure agent was most utilized, right? How many job ran, how many records are processed. So those kind of things, if you want to figure out, you can use the Operational Insights, right? So this is basically a high level overview of all the services which are available in IDMC. What I will do is I will jump into the administrator, because in this video we are going to talk mostly about the administrator, right? So let's jump into the administrator one. Here you go. So okay, so once you log into the administrator, right, once you navigate to the administrator, you will see something similar to this. So the first one will be the organization, where it's going to give you the high level information about the IDMC org, right? So here you will be able to see the name of the org, the address information, right? The org ID, right? All those information you will be able to see from here. And the general settings you will be able to do, right? Like the password requirements, the authentication requirement, where you want to store the credentials, right? So by default it will be storing the credentials or Informatica Cloud, but in case if you want to store the credentials or a local secure agent, you will be able to use that option as well, right? If in case the time zone of the org you will be able to set, right? In case of a job failure notification, right, if you want to trigger email, so those email IDs you will be able to provide it here, right? And the Clear GPT, Clear related preferences, right, you will be able to do it here, right? So whether you want to allow the organization to use the Clear services, those kind of preferences you will be able to set from here, right? So, and even you will be able to use this option, trust IP ranges. So basically you can define the IP ranges, and only with those IP ranges user will be able to log into your IDMC org. So those kind of setup you will be able to do it from the org page. And then the second one is license, basically. So this is a page, right, which is going to show you all the licenses your organization is having. Right, so here you can see what are all the connector license or custom license you have, so and with the validity that you will be able to see it from here. So nothing much to talk about here, it's just the license related things you will be able to see it from here. And then the next one is SAML setup, right? So if your organization wants to set up basically some SSO, right, like Okta SSO or Azure AD, so that they will be able to do it from here. So that setup you can do it from here. You can define all the required parameters and then you will be able to use it. And if you scroll down, it will, once you do the setup, it will show you the SAML URL. So using this URL, basically user will be able to use their SAML credentials to log into this. So that setup you will be able to do it from this screen, right? And then the next come is metering. Okay, so one thing I forgot to talk about is basically IPU, right? So because in metering you will be able to see the IPU. Now what happens is when you opt for IDMC services, right, everything is based on IPU here. So what IPU means is, let's say you you make a deal with Informatica, like you paid some amount to Informatica, right, to get the IDMC services, and for that amount Informatica will give you some credits, basically some points, you can treat it like, right, and you can utilize those points to use any services in IDMC, right, and those points are basically called as IPU, right, Informatica processing units, basically. So it will be showing how many IPUs you are entitled for, right. So basically this is my sub org, right, so that's where it's not showing me how many IPUs I am entitled for, because sub org is inheriting the IPU, consuming the IPU from the parent org, right. So parent org will be having information about how many IPUs it is entitled for, and the parent org and all the related sub org, they will be able to use the same IPU which parent org is having. So it's a good thing, basically, right. You pay a single amount, basically, right, and then you get the credits, basically, or IPUs, basically, and then you can utilize that IPU to run, to do anything in IDMC, right. So it's not like I'm getting separate IPU for CDI, separate IPU for CDQ, for CDC. No. So you get IPU at the org level, and then with that IPU you utilize whatever services you want, right. So that's the concept of basically IPU, or Informatica processing units. So these are basically credits, basically, right. And here you will be able to see your current IPU and how much IPU you have consumed, basically. So if you see in this org, basically I have only run a few MCC resources, right, and CDC resources. So that's where it's just showing me, okay, my catalog records, right, it has consumed 33 IPUs for these many records, right, and my governance record has consumed this many, and for these many IPUs for these many records. So for each service you will be able to see this breakdown here. For CDI, CDQ, everything you will be able to see it here. Now and even you can just go and see, okay, project level, folder level, the trend chart, you will be able to see it from here. And if in case if you want to understand what is the current rate, right, for the IPU consumption, if you click on that, this is going to show you the current rate, right, for each service. Like if you see here, it is showing, okay, for API call, for data access management queries, if you make these many API calls, it's going to charge you these many IPUs, right. If you make these many API calls, it's going to charge you this many IPUs. So likewise, it's going to give you for each service how much IPU consumption will be there. It's just showing you that, right. So from here you will be able to get the idea, okay, if I'm going to do something in IDMC, how much IPU it is going to consume, right. So tier is nothing but some services might be having different tiers. So for example, maybe which one is the one I can take? I can give you one example here, probably. Where is that? Okay, yeah, here is one example, right. So like catalog records, so if you're storing catalog records up to I think this one is 500k, right. So up to that, it's going to charge you 0.83 IPU records, 0.83 IPUs per these many records. But if you are going above these many per 100k records, basically up to 500k, it's going to charge. So for each 100k records, it's going to charge you 0.83 until you reach this number, right, 500k I think it is. Once you have crossed this number, then for each 100k records, it's going to charge you 0.067. So if you see, the more you are using, the less IPU you are going to consume. So that's how the breakdown is. So that's what the concept of tier here, right. And then if you in the user, you will be able to see all the users which are part of your organization. So this shows native users, SSO users, everything it shows, right? If you click on this user, it's going to show the detail about, okay, this user is having what are all the permissions, right? What are all the roles assigned to this user. So that information you will be able to see. Even if you click here, right click here, and then here you will be able to assign specific services. So for example, for this user, I just want to enable CDI services. So I can just choose CDI from here, right? So he will only be able to access the CDI. He will not be able to see rest of the services. So those service level assignment you can do. You can do other assignment as well. And if you click on this user, you will be able to do the role assignment. So that you can do from here, right? And then again, you have settings. So these settings are basically org level settings. So let's say you want to integrate a Git repository so that you can do version control, right? So if someone is developing CDI mapping, once they check in, it should create a version, right, in Git repository so that you can keep a track of that. So for those purposes, you can configure Git repositories right here. How it is going to behave when upgrade happens, right, or on the secure agent side. So those configuration you will be able to do it here. They have provided proper description, so nothing to talk about. You can easily go from here, right? And then custom branding, if you want to do, you will be able to see, right? So if you want to set your own logo, so right now here by default it shows Informatica logo. If you want to use your own logo, then you will be able to do so, right? If you want to change some color scheme, like right now it's using blue, orange, right? This kind of color it is using in sidebar, and if you want to change that, you will be able to do so from here, right? So those kind of configurations you will be able to do, and you will be able to see the preview here. Then the next one is user group, right? So like user, you can group the user into a single group so that you can assign the permission at the group level, and then all the users belonging to that group will be inheriting that permission. So that user group you can create here, and then you can club the users together, right? So those things you will be able to do. And then roles, basically. So if you open the roles, these are all the out of the box roles provided by Informatica, right? So it's having roles related to almost all the services, right? So you can see it's having related to data integration task, data marketplace, it's having org level admin. So you can assign these roles to the user roles, right? User groups, right? You can assign them, or you can create your own user roles and assign required permission to those user roles as well, and then you can use that. So custom user roles you can create, or you can utilize the out of the box provided. Then the next one is runtime environment, right? So runtime environment is basically, these are nothing but your secure agents. Let's understand first what the secure agent is, right? So let's say you have your IDMC here, right? So this is your IDMC, right, where your bunch of services are there, right? Likewise, you have the bunch of services. Now user will be able to this IDMC, right, with the help of a web browser, right? So you have a browser, right, and using that browser, user will be able to access the IDMC services. Now you want to create one CDI mapping to move data from source to target. So what user will be doing, they will be launching the CDI services, right, and they will be creating the mapping over here, right, and that mapping will be stored in the IDMC. So your mapping is going to be stored somewhere here, right, in the IDMC repository. So IDMC will be having their own databases, right? So there you are going to store the mapping. Now this mapping is going to connect to your source, right? So so you have your source, right, and then you have your target. So what this mapping is going to do, it's going to connect to your source, right, fetch the data from source, do all the transformations, right, and then load the data into the target. So that is what your mapping is going to do here. But if you do it in this way, so if you notice, this IDMC will be in your Informatica firewall, right, and this source and targets will be in customer firewall. So this will be in the customer firewall, and this IDMC will be in your Informatica firewall. So you cannot expose your your source systems to the IDMC, right? Because it's going to connect to the IDMC. So what it has to do is there has to be something in between which connects to these source systems and target systems, right? So that's where the secure agent comes into the picture. So secure agent basically it's a piece of software, right? It's a very lightweight software which is going to sit in the customer firewall. So basically, let's say customer spin up a virtual machine or a server in their premise, right? And they simply install the secure agent here. So in the in the customer provided server, they have installed the secure agent. Now this secure agent will be able to communicate to your source, it will be able to communicate to your target, and then it will be able to communicate to your IDMC. So now what happens is when user is going to create a mapping, the mapping will be anyway, it will be stored in the IDMC only, but as soon as he hits the run button, the mapping metadata will be downloaded to the secure agent, right? Secure agent will use that mapping data to figure out, okay, which source systems and target system it has to connect, and then secure agent will connect to your source, read the data, right, do all the processing, right, all the transformation processing it will be doing, and then it will be loading the data back to the target. So you see all the data read and processing of the data and load of the data is happening in the custom on the secure agent itself. And finally, secure agent will push the statistics to the IDMC so that user will be able to see, okay, how many records were processed, how much time it took. So those information they will be able to see the IDMC in their browser. So only those information will be fetched by the secure agent. So that's the use case of secure agent. That's the use of secure agent basically here, right? Okay, let's come back here. So those secure agent you will be able to install it here. So you just simply click on download secure agent, it will download the binary. You can do it on Windows or Linux, and then you just register it, and those secure agent will be listed here, and you can enable the required services on those secure agent. So for that purpose you can use it. There is a detailed documentation on secure agent. It's available on my website howdovik.com. You can refer that, or maybe in some other video we will talk in detail about the secure agent. Then you have serverless environment, right? So serverless environment is basically let's say you don't want to install secure agent on your on-premise or any VM, right? So instead you want to have it on some cloud, let's say AWS or Azure, and you want that it should automatically spin up when the user submits the job, right? You don't want it like it should run 24/7, but instead you just provide the cloud configuration detail to the IDMC. Let's say you provide your AWS account details here, right? And as soon as user submits a job, it's going to hit your AWS AWS account, and it's going to spin up a VM and install the secure agent, and then secure agent that will be used to process whatever we discussed earlier, right? So in those cases you can go with the serverless runtime environment, right? So this is basically, it's giving you more flexibility that the secure agents will be spin up on the fly, right? And if to handle a load, if to handle a particular load, if it needs one secure agent, it will spin up one VM. If it needs multiple secure agent, it is going to spin up multiple VMs, right? So those cases you will be able to use it from here. Then you have connections basically. So here you will be able to create the connections to connect to your source and targets, which you can utilize in data quality, CDI, everywhere, right? So to connect to source and targets, you will be doing the configurations here, right? Then schedule, you can create it here, and then you have the data service repository, right? So data service repository is basically, it is mainly used for the B2B gateway, right? Like we talked about, right? In B2B, the organizations will be able to exchange the messages with the vendors. So those out of the box templates or the configurations, those are provided here basically. So all those out of the box services and versions are provided here, right? So for example, it's something having HIPAA, right? So if I search for HIPAA, I will find something related to HIPAA here, right? So basically these services can be used to exchange HIPAA messages with the healthcare partners. So those things are available here. And then you have add-on bundles. So Informatica provide some add-on bundles, right? So let's say they provide some out-of-the-box data quality rules, right, or some out-of-the-box workflows. So those will be available here, and it will list under this in this option, and then you will be able to use them. So you can just open that any of these bundles. So for example, if I open this bundle and then I can install it. So once I install it, it will be available under installed bundles, and basically these are reusable components provided by Informatica which customers can utilize. And then you have Swagger files, basically, right? So Swagger file is basically you can create Swagger file, and Swagger is nothing but a specification for documenting the REST APIs, right? So where you can specify the API URL, the endpoint, the method like get, put, which method you want to use, and other parameters related to the API. So this is mandatory for if you want to use IICS REST v2 connection in CDI mapping, right? So let's say you want to create a CDI mapping where you want to use IICS REST v2 connection to call certain API and consume the data. So in that case, first you need to come back and you need to create a Swagger file, basically define the specification, and then you create a IICS v2 connection, and there you have to select this Swagger file so that it understands what header it has to send or what response it has to accept, right? So those configurations it will be able to understand from here. And then logs, right? In the logs you will be able to see the asset level log, and then security log, like who logged in, when it was logged in, who performed what action. So all those information you will be able to see in the log section. Then you have advanced cluster. So advanced cluster is all about elastic, basically, right? So let's say you want to process big data related files like Parquet files or Avro files, right? So those things cannot be processed on local secure agent, right? It has to be processed on elastic it has to go with the Spark clusters, basically. So where those Spark clusters will be, that configuration you will be doing it here. So Spark clusters can be on local secure agent as well. So you can you can provide the configuration, right? And in the local cluster, in the local secure agent itself, it will spin up the Spark clusters, and those will be utilized for processing the big data related files. Or you can use any cloud. So let's say you provide AWS or Azure or GCP, and there it will spin up a VM with the Spark clusters, and those will be utilized for the big data file processing. And then you have file server, right? So file server is basically used for the B2B gateway or the data integration REST API, right? For the exchange files. So the use case basically is here, it's listing all the secure agent, right? And then it's listing all the protocols, right? So basically this you can use to exchange files with the remote partners, right? Let's say you can configure the AS2 server or HTTPS server, SFTP server, and using that the partners will be able to share the files with each other. So for that purposes you will be able to do it from here. And then here you see this notification. So here all the notifications it will be showing to you. So if you get any job failure notification or any notification in IDMC, right, that you will be able to see it from here. So if you click on that, it will show all the notification. Right now I do not have anything, so it's not showing me. And then here it's having the profile icon. If you click on that, so this one is going to help you with the basically profile settings. So you can set your own time zone, right? So because org-wide time zone will be there, but if customer want to set their own time zone, then they will be able to do it from the profile page. So for those related activity, you will be able to do it from here. Let me see if I can open that part. Yeah, so this is how the profile page will look. It will show you your detail, and then it will show you the time zone. If you want, you can change your time zone from here. You can change your passwords from here. So those kind of related activity you will be able to perform it from here. And then it also has something called settings. So here you will be able to provide some additional details like Git username, password. So those kind of detail you will be able to provide it from here on the settings page. And then this is a help icon, so all the documentation you will be able to access it from here. So that purpose you can utilize it from here. So I think that was all I had planned for this session. So hopefully it was able to give you a high level idea of what IDMC is and what are all the options you have in the IDMC administrator, right? So all those things you will be able to do from here. In next sessions we will talk more about other services, right? Stay tuned and subscribe to this channel so that whenever I'm going to post new videos, right, or you will be able to get notification, right, so that you can come and check that. So that's all for today. I hope it was helpful for you. See you in the next